Representative Gino Bulso joins us to talk about his flag bill, which advanced, I believe, in the House of Representatives yesterday, and it's always good to catch up with Representative Bulso. Hello, Gino. How are you?
Doing fine, Matt. Good afternoon.
And good afternoon to you. Thank you for making a little time for us. I know it's busy over in the General Assembly right now. Walk me through what happened yesterday in the House of Representatives regarding your flag bill.
Sure. By a vote of 70 to 24, the House passed HB 1605, which is a bill that we filed to make sure that those who would try to indoctrinate kids through political flags, pride flags, other types of flags, would not be able to do so that parents remain in control of what values are being instilled in their children. And it was gratifying to see the caucus hang together despite all of the opposition that we all received over the last several weeks leading up to passage of the bill. But if this bill passes the Senate next week, when I believe it's scheduled for a floor vote and is signed by Governor Lee, then we will have across the entire state, all 95 counties, a rule that does not allow pride flags to be in classrooms in an attempt to teach values to children that their parents object to.
Now, part of this and part of what happened at the House yesterday, it's a part of it. I mean, I understand that there are going to be Tennesseans, Americans that feel differently about these things, and they can express their displeasure, but that's why we send representatives to the General Assembly to vote on these matters, and obviously the vote was overwhelming, 70 to 24. But I believe that you, Gino, in what I know about you and the times that I've sat down and talked with you and watching you on the floor, you bent over backwards, it seems, to address legitimate concerns that people might have had regarding, specialty type classroom instruction and these sorts of things. Just walk me through the ways that you tried to make sure that this was a comprehensive bill that did not have unintended consequences.
Sure. We started with a very simple bill that provided that the only flags that could be displayed in a school or on school grounds across the state were the U.S. flag and the Tennessee flag. And the U.S. flag, interestingly enough, is required by statute to be displayed at all schools. But over time, through the committee process, the legislative process, we went ahead and added some additional types of flags that you might typically see in a classroom, such as, a flag of another country or a political subdivision thereof. So we added that as a permissible flag, a flag of a college or a university. We added that as a permissible flag, a flag perhaps of a POW MIA, which is included, a flag of an armed forces unit or the ROTC, that's been added. Types of flags that might be used during a history class have been added. So over the course of the process, we ended up with a bill that specifies 12 different categories of flags that are permitted to be flown. The intent, of course, being to make sure that the flags that are permitted are there to educate students, not to indoctrinate them.
Well, and for me, it's a matter of the government not encroaching on my faith-based beliefs in a public education system, right? Because for far too long, this has been such a one-sided issue, and anyone suggesting that the display of a gay pride flag within a public education setting can somehow run against my religious faith, my religious beliefs, and those values that I'm teaching my children, we're immediately called homophobic and all of these sorts of things, to which I would respond, no, I believe in a country that allows others to live a life of their choosing, but I want to live a life of my choosing. Why do we have to introduce this in our third grade classrooms, which I think was the impetus behind your bill to begin with, right, Gina?
Exactly. I mean, this problem came to me through the grassroots, through constituents who are parents that complained to the local school board about these pride flags being in classrooms and on walls in classes, and they could get no relief from local school boards. And then we heard the same complaint in other counties across Tennessee. So it was necessary for the General Assembly to act. And I think much like you, Matt, my colleagues and I believe, strangely enough, that parents should be the one to raise their kids. And if a parent wants to raise a child to believe in values that are represented by a pride flag, then obviously they're entitled to do that. But by the same token, a parent who wants to raise a child to instill beliefs that are inconsistent with those that are represented by the pride flag, they should obviously have a right to do that. And what's interesting is that despite the fact that you, Matt, and I and others are willing to allow any parent to instill whatever values in the child they want, we're the ones who are accused of being intolerant. Because unless we accept that the views represented by the pride flag should be instilled in all children, somehow that makes us intolerant, when, of course, it's the exact opposite.
Did you hear anyone in opposition to your bill present an argument as to why it is absolutely necessary that these flags exist in the classroom? Did you hear anything that compelled you to think, well, maybe I should pause on this? Or was it mostly emotional appeals based on the nature that you just described?
It was mostly emotional appeals. The one argument that was made during committee was that some teachers use these as to create, quote, a safe space, close quote, that shows that everyone is included. This is an inclusive flag. That was the argument that was made. But we know, of course, that we do have an inclusive flag. It's called the United States flag. It includes every one of us. And it represents values that we all agree with. That's why we're here. Everyone is equal under the law. Everyone should have a right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I mean, our core American values are the ones we agree on. Those are the ones that should be taught in school. Those are the ones that are represented by the U.S. flag. And that's why, if you want to be inclusive, put the U.S. flag, put the stars and stripes on your desk, not a flag that represents the viewpoint of only a small minority of Tennesseans. Because as you'll recall, Matt, when the issue was put to Tennesseans back in 2006, by a vote of more than 80%, Tennessee voted in a constitutional amendment that traditional marriage, one man, one woman, should be the law of the land. And that, unfortunately, was knocked down by this Supreme Court decision that we had in 2015 called Obergefell versus Hodges.
Well, I would say this, Gino. One of the reasons that I loved your bill from the beginning, because it called out liberals and it called out certain activism that shouldn't exist within the classroom where it exists. And here's why I believe that. Because one argument goes along these lines of, Gino, this isn't a real problem. Well, if it's not a real problem, then you won't have problems with the legislation. And if it is happening in broad categories of our classrooms around the state of Tennessee, then we begin to ask the question why that is and why it is that there's so much of this going on in our classrooms. It's almost as if it is a collective effort to do just what you described, indoctrinate children against the better wishes of the parents. I think it tackles the issue right where it lives and breathes, and I appreciate your help and your support in this, and I expect that you'll get a similar level of support in the Tennessee Senate. Would you agree?
I agree. We expect it to pass very easily with an overwhelming majority over in the Senate.
Gino, thank you for everything you do. I appreciate you carving out a little bit of time for us. I know it's a busy day up there on Capitol Hill, and we'll talk to you again very soon, my friend.
Great, Matt. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. There's Gino Bulso, the sponsor, the representative who brought the bill that would allow for only certain flags. Let me just run down those permitted. The bill, which was introduced, as I mentioned, by Bulso, heads over to the Senate. It would allow for the flag of the United States of America, the official Tennessee state flag, a flag that contains a memorial and cannot be distributed or altered, a POW or MIA flag, a flag that represents a Native American tribe, a flag that represents a city, county, metropolitan government, or other political subdivision of the state of Tennessee, a flag that represents a unit, branch, or other division of the armed forces, including ROTC, a flag that represents a country or a political subdivision, a college or university flag, or an official school flag or a flag of an organization authorized to use a public school building. It does not include gay pride flags, nor should it. The public space, the public arena should be tolerant of all viewpoints. And for far too long, we've been told, as Gino put it, that to suggest that perhaps a gay pride flag is not appropriate in the classroom has been considered intolerant, when in fact it's the other way around. No one is telling you how to live your life. No one, and certainly not me. I believe in a fierce individualism in the United States of America. I believe that you get to live a life of your own choosing, and you get to teach your kids the same way. But that does not mean that you can use an instrument of the state to indoctrinate other kids into your lifestyle habits or choices as a result. That's not the way that it should work. And I would say this, just as we have told our individuals who believe in church-based learning that there are spaces for you in church-based schools, in schools that perhaps have a more biblical approach, but that is not a space that should be utilized within the public sector. I would say the same thing for those that are obsessed with the gay pride flag. There are places for you.